Act 1. Not so long ago, the Karen lived happily in the jungles of Myanmar, surrounded by bamboo forests. These peaceful people had lived this way since ancient times. Among them was a girl named Se Pa. She lived with her parents and her grandmother. For some time, the elders had been gathering every night. They were concerned. In the distance at night, they could hear a rumble very far away. The elders knew this meant trouble. Many centuries ago, there was a prophecy about a day when all would be set on fire in the hands of people with pale blue faces. They would bring pain and sorrow to Karen. Se Pa was 5 years old at the time. Life went by as usual at the village until one day, the rumble and thunder got closer and closer, and suddenly, in the dark of the jungle, the light of torches surrounded the village. The elders screamed and called everyone to the stronghold. The men got up in arms, ready to defend their loved ones. Se Pa's dad yelled, "Take cover! I will defend us. You will be safe. Remember how much I love you and always be brave." In the dark of the night, the torches started to close in. The visions of the elders became a reality that night. Se Pa's mother kept the little girl in her arms all the time. Grandma was behind them, praying silently, asking their forefathers to protect them. The war started with the first torches running towards the village. Little did they know of the true intentions of these mysterious invaders. They came to the village to take all the young adults with them, and so they did. The next morning, Grandma had Se Pa in her arms. The village was empty. Mom and Dad were gone. They had been taken by the raiders. Grandma knew they had to run and hide deeper in the woods. And Se Pa grew up being raised by Grandma in the deepest of the woods of Myanmar. Act 2. 3 years passed. Se Pa was now 8 years old. She loved the warm days of summer. She played with the many animals in the forest. Every morning, she could hear the elephants in the distance. Her cat was always by her. She had put a Tinkerbell on it. Every night, Grandma told Se Pa the stories of their ancestors, their visions, and Se Pa would dream about the times when the Karen thrived in the woods of Myanmar. Now, it was just the two of them, alone, but Se Pa was happy with all her animal friends. Grandma told her one day they would find her parents, and Se Pa dreamed every night about the day when she would get to see Mom and Dad again. Until one day, Sepal was playing in the woods and she heard a rumbling noise. She ran to the edge of the woods to see what was making that terrible sound. And there they were, the raiders, in their uniforms, and some wore masks that made them look evil. Sepal ran as fast as she could, but it was too late. The army people had spotted her and chased her until they found the hut in the deepest of the woods. Somehow, Sepal and Grandma were able to hide, and the soldiers could not find them. Grandma and Sepal were desolated. Their lovely hut was no longer safe. They needed to run away again. They started walking west. Grandma knew of a distant land where St. Karen had established many years ago. At night, the raiders came out, wearing their masks. They were going to burn and let down to ashes. As they set everything on fire, the flames rose up high in the night sky, lighting up the jungle with a red glow. The birds called, the animals ran, the clouds in the sky were lit yellow from the fire burning below on the ground. Act 3. Grandma and Sepal walked for weeks, sleeping at night under the starry sky, and eating whatever they could find in the woods. Walking in the middle of the jungle was not easy, but Grandma had always lived in these forests, and she taught Sepal how to live off the land. She taught her granddaughter everything she knew about the woods, the sky, the past, and the future. Sepal was the last hope Grandma had of keeping the Karen people alive. And in the evening of that day, in the distance, on top of a hill, Sepal could only see the green canopy lit with the sun rays. Grandma pointed towards that sunny hill and said, "We are here. That is where we need to go, my child." When they got to the gates, people surrounded them. Some of the people recognized them. People rejoiced and gathered more. In the distance, others ran towards the crowd, and suddenly, among them, Sepal's parents stood. Grandma could not believe her eyes. Sepal could barely remember their faces, but Grandma pointed towards them and said, "Look, my child, there is Mom and Dad." And Sepal ran to them. They hugged and laughed and cried for a long time, and the crowd cheered in awe. Everyone thought the girl and the old lady had died in the raid, but Grandma kept both alive, and while people praised the old lady for her strength and endurance, the old village was so far away, yet she had made the weeks-long walk on foot through the jungle. A true queen of the Karen, she was now revered as a legend, and many stories were told to honor her quest, and people celebrated for days, as Grandma was a holder of the memories of the past and the future of the Karen. happy as she could be. Now she was united with her parents. Grandma was always busy teaching the stories of her people. St. Paul was going to school for the first time. She loved learning and telling the stories Grandma taught her. But those days were not going to last forever. This was a refugee camp after all. Some nights, her parents and Grandma would get together to talk. St. Paul did not know what they would talk about until one night, Grandma said, "My child, there is something you need to know. There is a distant land where you will go." "And you, Grandma?" Grandma said, "My child, I am too old to go. You will go without me." St. Paul stayed silent, holding her tears. Grandma said, "My love, look at the moon, how it shines tonight. When you get to that land, you will see the same moon. And every time that you miss me, I want you to look at the moon. I will be looking too. That way, we will always look at each other. You must go, my child. I will always be with you wherever you are." 2 years later, it felt like such a long time had passed. St. Paul is now in a new country, so different from the jungles of Myanmar. All the streets, the parks, so many dogs. St. Paul and her parents now live in St. Paul, Minnesota. America is so different from Myanmar. She is learning a new language at a school called Frost Lake. She is happy, but every time she misses her grandma, she goes out in the summer nights to gaze at the moon. She still remembers her grandma's words. That way, she will live happily ever after.
Hi, I'm Liliana, and I'm in 4th grade. I hope you like our show, Together Under One Moon. Thank you for coming. Let's give them a hand.